Patreon Q&A number 128. I want to thank all 124 of my amazing patrons, guys. Thank you so much for continuing to support me the way that you have been, and to everyone else listening. There's going to be spoilers for all of the series I'm going to be talking about, so tread carefully. Boxsteam asks, where do you think Saitama's family is at, and why do you think we never see them? So this is a great question, and I honestly don't know. I mean, there's no way to know. They're never talked about, ever. Not even close to being talked about, I don't think. I don't think there's one single line of dialogue in any continuity within One Punch Man that references or points towards Saitama's family in any degree. And that ultimately makes me think that one is doing that on purpose, because I guess he just doesn't want that to be an element of Saitama or just One Punch Man's story in general. And honestly, that's fine with me. I think that's kind of interesting, actually. Like, him just being Saitama, like, he doesn't even have like a last name, or maybe that's not even like his first name. We don't really know. He's just like Madonna. It's just Saitama, you know? So along with that, and us having like no information on his family, and honestly just little information on his backstory in general. Saitama's past is mainly just seen like a few times, really. We see him at the beginning of the series, like when he encounters Delamante, which leads to him becoming who he is, and then the training afterwards. And then before that, there's that 200 yen bonus chapter where we see when he's like 12 years old in middle school. And even in that chapter, there's no mention of his parents, or we don't see them or anything like that. The closest that we even come to something like that is when we see him like in his room, which is in his childhood house, maybe? So I think it's actually kind of better this way, that Saitama doesn't have like all of this huge lore to him, or like this big substantial family or ties to him, like typically what we would see from like a shonen MC. And I'm not saying One Punch Man is a shonen. I gotta put that out there because you know you're gonna have those people in the comments. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on it, and I wouldn't be surprised if we never find out anything about Saitama's family. I really even wouldn't be surprised if we never find out anything more about Saitama's past, or even what his like real name is. Big Slapper asks, if Suiryu ate that monster cell, do you think he would have been as strong or even stronger than Goketsu? So Suiryu's obviously around S-class level, and we'll have to look at like, I don't know, maybe Hellfire and Gale. I guess in their human like ninja forms, maybe they were maybe S-class level, right? But we don't really see them before they ate the monster cells, at least in the manga's continuity. So like seeing them as demons when they're in their human forms, does that mean that they were always demons? They were always that strong, or did the monster cells affect them on some level other than them having to transform into the monster? Maybe, maybe not. But it seems like individually, maybe they were around the level of like where Sonic was in that story, or maybe a little stronger than him or something like that. But when they go into their monster forms, obviously they become certified dragon. But oddly, they're not strong enough to be cadres, only cadre candidates. So it's like, how strong is Suiryu in relation to like the human forms of Hellfire and Gale? I mean, physically, he's probably stronger than them, but like, you know, overall. But even then, it's like that enough for him to surpass Goketsu? I mean, Goketsu does say that like if Suiryu ate a monster cell, he'd be one of the big shots of the Monster Association, which I guess is implying that, you know, maybe you'd be a cadre. But that line alone is not making me think that like Goketsu thinks that Suiryu would be stronger than him. Now, does Goketsu know exactly everything that would happen? No, but from dialogue, you know, a narrative perspectives, he probably does. So I would say that if Suiryu ate a monster cell, he would for sure be stronger than Bakuzan, but maybe not as strong as Goketsu. But maybe strong enough to be a cadre, if that makes sense. Blast41888 asks, do you think there's any significance to the infinity symbol that Blast makes when he puts his fist together? So that's a good question, and I honestly don't know at this point. We don't really have too much info on Blast, despite us having the most we've ever had up until this point. Either that's just like a cool symbol that he makes when he charges up his energy, or that could give us more insight into the mystery behind Blast. Like infinity could be related to the greater significance of Blast, maybe it's part of his origin story, maybe it's part of his ability, maybe it's a clue as to the greater meaning of Blast, maybe. Or like I said, it's just a cool symbol that he makes when he charges up. We just don't have enough information at this time, but you know, there could be some significance to it. Chance asks, Super Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann Giga Drill versus Goku. I can't seem to understand why people would think Goku would win this, but I'd like to hear your opinion on it. So the Giga Drill sequence is just absolutely insane. And on paper, there's very little fictional characters, at least in like, you know, comic books and manga and stuff like that could really deal with something like that. Me personally, I don't see Goku being able to do something against that, because he becomes like the size of the universe or close to it, and like when they have like their drills colliding, they're sucking up like galaxies into them, and Goku has never come close to dealing with something on that magnitude. So in my opinion, I don't know how Goku would be able to defeat something like that. But hey, maybe there's some power scaling elitists that could calculate things to favor Goku in this situation. I don't know. Delamante asks, Maharaga and current Sukuna versus Gojo, who wins? Oh, this is a very interesting scenario. So I was immediately thinking that 15 Fingers Sukuna seems like he would give Gojo a pretty good test. I'm not saying he would defeat him, but definitely push Gojo the furthest that we've seen so far since like Toji did. You know, considering how Sukuna dealt with Jogo in a similar fashion that Gojo did. But then you add Maharaga as his teammate here, and now I'm thinking that this might enter potentially high diff territory for Gojo maybe. I mean, naturally you'd think that like, okay, so if he just activates Infinite Void, then I guess he would defeat them. I would really like to see how Maharaga would like react to Infinite Void, but it's like, does that automatically guarantee him the win? Maybe, maybe not. I don't think 15 Finger Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine would be able to like overcome Infinite Void. Can Maharaga do Simple Domain? Or maybe his own domain expansion could do something maybe? I don't know, if I had to put money on it, I would say Gojo probably wins. Around, you know, high diff somewhere, maybe like high mid, if that makes sense. Dino W asks, so it seems that Wanda created the hex around Westview itself. I thought that with most people that someone was controlling her, like Agatha or Nightmare or Mephisto. Do you still think they'll do Mephisto / Nightmare in the show? It's still possible at this point, because I'm pretty sure it was said that there's going to be a new character revealed in the last episode, which is the next episode. So it could be one of those guys. I personally hope that it's not, and that's mainly because I just want to see all of the people on social media being disappointed who have just been spouting this Mephisto rhetoric for like the last couple weeks, thinking that like they came up with it when they really didn't. I would like it more so if it was like Reed Richards or somebody like that, but that just seems like way too good at this point. For your second question, it turns out the vision we have been with the last 2 months was actually a fake, and the real one is getting turned into a weapon. What do you think the Sword Vision will be like? Will he be stronger like Ultron, immune to magic, and can Hex Vision beat him? And I'm sure we'll see Sword Vision versus Wanda's Vision, and maybe they'll be comparable in strength, pretty strong and somewhat of a foil. And then what I'd really like to see is like Wanda somehow through the, you know, Deus Ex magic of MCU transfer Hex Vision's like consciousness into like the Sword Vision, and then we have Vision back. I think that would be pretty cool. Goliath Xanatos asks, what are your thoughts on the newest theories being discussed thanks to the latest chapter of the Super manga that Beerus was always stronger than Goku, even with his multiple power-ups and Ultra Instinct? So it's probably the case. Beerus is probably stronger than Goku right now, but I think it's because it was probably retconned recently to be that way. I don't think it was always intended for Beerus to be stronger than what Goku is currently. At least by the anime standards, the manga, obviously different continuity, and I guess we still consider the anime to be the true canon of Super. And in the anime, it's definitely painting the picture that Ultra Instinct Goku is stronger than Beerus. But I think they probably got ahead of themselves when they just retconned things around to make Beerus stronger than what he originally was, which is fine. I don't really care. I think, you know, Goku shouldn't be defeating Beerus so soon, especially, you know, if it seems like that we're not close to the end yet. Then for your second question, do you think it's possible that Orochi survived in the last chapter of One Punch Man? So it's possible, of course. I'm not going to say that there's no chance he'd come back, but, you know, Drive Knight did collect his cell sample, so he will live on to some extent, because I'm sure Drive Knight's going to replicate him, or he's going to do something with it. But as for him like straight up coming back in this arc, I just don't see the point in it. He's already had one false death, and that was fine. I think that was cool and earned, but for him to have 2 false deaths and then come back again, it's like, what's the point? We already have enough enemies for them to fight with the cadres and the big bad that's going to be, you know, Golden S and Garou at the end. So it's like Orochi coming back again is just unnecessary at this point, in my opinion. Little Ferrari asks, what English dubs to watch for anime, if any? So my favorite dub is Yu Yu Hakusho. It's just so good. I could just watch that anytime. My Hero has a really good dub as well. And One Piece's Funimation dub is surprisingly good too. And then if you're looking for more classic, like non-shonen-esque stuff, Trigun and Cowboy Bebop are really solid as well. Lewis asks, who wins in a fight between Child Emperor with Brave Giant along with 2 Metal Knight robots versus Goketsu and Homeless Emperor? So I don't even think Goketsu needs Homeless Emperor in this matchup. I think he would just solo them all by himself. I think he's way stronger than Brave Giant and definitely the 2 Metal Knight robots, especially now that the Millennium Emperor Nova has been retconned. Mr.Awsome asks, I'm still in Whole Cake Island in One Piece. I have not seen/read any Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer, and I have only seen the first season of Attack on Titan. In what order do you think I should get caught up? So I would say probably finish One Piece first. That's going to be the longest hurdle right now. I personally like to do the hardest things first. That way everything else is kind of easier in comparison afterwards. So after you finish One Piece, I would just watch the first season of Demon Slayer. And then if that interests you enough, then just go finish the manga because it's already completed and there's only like 205 chapters, so it's not very long. After that, I would watch the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen if that interests you, then catch up with the manga. It's only about 140 chapters at this point. And then if you get past all that, then I would just, finish up the Attack on Titan anime. Your second question, who would win in a fight between Prime Garp and USJ All Might? Super hard to say because haven't seen Prime Garp do anything. We just know about his legend. I'm not even sure if that was technically Prime Garp that we saw One Punch Chinjiao. I'm thinking Prime Garp was more so God Valley territory. But considering how powerful he was at Marineford and how everybody was just terrified of him, and it's implied that he's one of the strongest One Piece characters ever, if not the strongest to ever live, maybe. So Prime Garp might put up a really good fight against USJ All Might. I'm not sure who would win. I'm saying it would probably be competitive. Natedawg asks, what do you think would happen if Boros invaded the moment Orochi and Psychos fused? Would any side team with another? No, I think Psychos would probably try to make Boros team up, but then Boros would be like, well, I don't care about taking over the world. I'm just here to fight the strongest opponent. And then he would probably just force Sairochi into a fight and then likely defeat them. Samurai asks, do you think Jewelry Bonnie's fruit could heal herself or maybe advance wounds on opponents? I don't think it works the way that Eri's quirk does because Eri rewinds time. It seems like Bonnie's quirk is just magically affecting the age of a person. So I'm thinking that if you have a wound or something and she reverts your age to being younger or older, you'll probably still have the wound, but you'll just be younger or older. Her fruit hasn't been fully explained or explored yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Could Eri bring people back to life? So that's a great question, and it's possible you might see something like this happen in the series, but also like Bonnie, her power hasn't been fully explored or explained yet. So in theory, if she came across somebody's corpse, not sure how old it would have to be, maybe it was a fresh corpse, maybe she could rewind it back to a point of where they were alive. Like I said, in theory, that could work maybe, but we just have to see if this is possible. How strong do you think Enel would be when he gets back? Could he be on par with an admiral? I don't think so. His fruit is definitely worthy of an admiral, but him overall is nowhere close to admiral level. Now, unless Enel had some crazy power up during the time skip, like he had some crazy Luffy-esque training on the moon, which seems unlikely, but it is possible. Even then, I don't think he would be admiral level. Battle between Magneto and Zoro. Is it possible for Magneto to just disarm Zoro using their powers to finish him off? Yeah, I don't see Zoro being able to defeat Magneto. It's just way too bad of a matchup for him. And then your last question, I think you misunderstood one of my questions from last week. I didn't mean Levi and Krillin. I meant Levi with Saiyan Saga Krillin's stats. Even then, I don't think Levi would be able to take over Zoro, Vegeta, even with your stipulation added here to where if his tail's cut off, he doesn't revert back. It seems like you just kind of want to have this situation where Levi can somehow defeat Uzaro Vegeta. So I would say that if you really want him to win, but not too unfairly, I guess maybe make him as strong as Nappa, possibly. I wouldn't say Goku because then maybe it's guaranteed he would win, but maybe putting him on the level of Nappa would make it somewhat competitive and he could possibly high diff win at that point. I just think the level between Vegeta, especially Ozaru Vegeta, is just way too much. compared to the rest of the characters that aren't Goku. Snowpeas asks, how would Demon Slayer play out if Tanjiro's blade were to turn red when he was given his blade in the beginning of the story? So these fights would go a lot quicker, and he would actually legitimately become a Hashira before they all die, and because, he never officially becomes a Hashira, although he kind of is. And I think Muzan would catch on. He'd be like, wow, my 12 Tsuki are dying pretty easily to this one guy. I need to figure out some kind of plan. So maybe he'd have some kind of countermeasure to go against Tanjiro, or maybe he would just attack way sooner, possibly. The Skinny Giraffe asks, God Usopp with 1 month of prep time versus Aki Inu, who's winning, or rather, how long do you think Usopp can hold him off? So 1 month of prep time, and he knows everything about Aki Inu. I mean, Usopp could legitimately have a chance of taking him down at this point. Usopp's not stupid. I mean, he's dumb, but he's not stupid. He's actually one of the more intelligent Straw Hats. So if he knew everything about Aki Inu, he could bring, as much sea stone as he could gather, set up his traps or whatever, set up some kind of way to get Aki Inu into the water. I mean, there's plenty of ways for these outrageous characters to be defeated just simply through the weaknesses of devil fruits. And Usopp obviously knows that, so I don't think it's too unlikely for him to put himself into a situation where he can defeat Aki Inu, especially if Aki Inu comes in just randomly and has no idea what's going on and has, no prior knowledge to this event the way that Usopp does. Not saying it's guaranteed, but I would say he would have a good chance. Tim Sim 88 asks, just wondering what if evil natural water made it into a big body of water like a lake or something? Would he be able to control all of it? And if he could, who do you think outside of Saitama would stand a chance? So I think, yeah, he could probably control the water. I don't see why not. He could pull the moisture from the air and build himself up and make himself bigger from that. At least in the webcomic he was, and I'm pretty sure they just reestablished that in the manga with those retcons. And I guess Tatsumaki could take care of him. I mean, we've seen her city level feats, so I think she could take care of evil natural water as well. Wolffire54 asks, where do you see Blast popping up next? So I'm thinking that aside from the flashbacks and things that have already been established, I'm thinking that the next time he's gonna show up is the last arc, maybe, when the cubes come back into play or when God becomes more relevant, which, is probably going to be the last arc. So yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Blast again for a very long time. But then again, I wouldn't have expected Blast to show up in the last chapter, so anything could really happen at this point. Your second question is, when the manga catches up with the webcomic, how do you see the conversation going down between Suiko, Suiryu, and Saitama? So I think Suiryu is going to be way more willing to have Suiko try to date Saitama. He'll be encouraging her, I think. But I think he'll just be like, hey, I'm with the Neo Heroes because it's just, it's better over here. Nothing against you and the Hero Association, Saitama. I want to be a hero. You inspire me to do that, but just the Neo Heroes are better. I don't think he'll be disrespectful or anything. Zapphod B asks, will King ever publicly reveal that he is not as powerful as they think? I think he might eventually try to do something like that, but as we've seen, it doesn't matter if he exposes himself, no one believes him. He tried to say the same thing to Bang, and Bang was just like, you're being too hard on yourself. I kind of felt that way myself. So it's possible that even if he did do it to the public, they would probably give a similar reaction to Silverfang. So there would need to be some substantial event that happens that exposes him to the point of where not even the aura can make them see otherwise. And after King does his courage training in the webcomic, do you think he will be strong enough to kill a wolf level threat? And if he did, do you think people would say it was Zesh level god? That would be hilarious. I can actually see one doing that. I would like to see it. But I'm not really sure where King's training is going at this point, and I honestly, I just don't know what to say about it. I need to see more. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Once again, I want to thank all 124 of my amazing patrons, and if you would like to be in next week's Q&A, simply check out the Patreon. The link is in the description. The $5 tier will give you access to this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.